MSW Media.
So yeah, now it's clean up on aisle 45 time. And for a long while yet, it is going to be clean up on aisle 45.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 226 of Clean Up on Aisle 45. It's Wednesday, May 21st, 2025. The month is flying by. I'm Allison Gill.
It really is. Hey, AG, I'm Harry Dunn, and we have a lot to cover today, including an update on the case of the Milwaukee judge that was arrested for allegedly helping a migrant evade ICE. Her legal defense team has filed a motion to dismiss the charges against her on several grounds, so we'll cover that motion in detail. Plus, a story about ICE using a child as bait to arrest a mother. Where there's no floor to these guys.
No, there's not. Yeah. And we'll talk about DHS's response to the poor ICE officers constantly being assaulted. That takes a lot of gall coming from this particular administration.
Absolutely.
And speaking of January 6th, we have another January 6er that's been arrested again. And Smartmatic, the voting machine company, is accusing Rupert Murdoch and his peeps of destroying evidence in their defamation case against Fox. And we don't have any Rudy news or Pillow Man news. But we will end the show today with a little schadenfreude because there's a massive judgment against another beleaguered member of the Kraken Elite Strike Force, Lin Wood. Remember that guy, the plantation owner?
Yes. We remember that name.
Big settlement against him. But first, I need to thank our new patrons. So thank you to Gerard Jussaum. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Let me know if I'm not. Letitia, Kathy Humphreys, Elizabeth McBride, and Shirley Frizzell. You're wonderful. Thank you so much for supporting independent media. We couldn't do this without you. And by the way, you all now are invited to our happy hour Zoom mocktail cocktail extravaganza at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific on Friday. And we're having, by the way, this is a super mega happy hour Zoom call. Harry, you're going to be there.
Yes.
So will Dana Goldberg from the Daily
Dana.
Beans.
We love Dana. I can't wait for Dana.
And Andy McCabe will be there too. So
Andy's going to join us. We love Andy too. Him and his great hair.
Yeah, his great hair and his cool glasses and his fancy guitars.
He's great.
He is. So if you've ever thought about becoming a patron, you've been on the fence, now's the time. You get to talk to all of us, ask us questions. You can become a patron at patreon.com/aisle45pod. That's AISLE 45POD. And Harry, you sent me a text this morning. We did get the settlement amount for Ashli Babbitt's estate. Talk a little bit about that.
It's far lower than the $30 million claim settlement that they were seeking. But I mean, $5 would have been too much, in my opinion. Ashli Babbitt's family estate is going to be getting $5 million from you all. The taxpayers. I think that's one of the points I need to point out. Yeah, it's a settlement, but that money comes from where? The taxpayers. And Ashli Babbitt's family is now going to be receiving $5 million of that. It sucks. Like, it sucks. Like I just said, $5 is too much. Because what does it do? It's a wrongful death suit. There's been no evidence that it was a wrongful death. There was no findings of police misconduct or abuse of power. It was a justified shooting. So where does the wrongful part come in? If anything, she was wrong for being there, and Donald Trump was wrong for filling her head with lies that the election was stolen. So if Donald Trump was to give her $5 million, whatever, do your thing. But the $5 million from the taxpayers, it's a complete disgrace and a total slap in the face of justice, rule of law, and just basic decency.
Yeah. No, if this were a payout because Trump caused her death, okay. But it's not, right?
Yeah.
So, and you're going to be, I think, By the time folks listen to this will already have happened. But you're going to go be on Abby Phillips' show to discuss this.
Yeah, we're going to go up there to talk about it. They, they always have a Republican counterpart on their programming up there. And listen, that's fine. Like, I don't, we could talk about different points of views and stuff like that. But how do you justify this? Like, there's no justification in this at all. Or, you know what, if that's the case, all right, what did the police officers get? What did the people that lost their lives get?
Yeah, and the fact that the government's giving back all the money that we got from these criminals in restitution it's $5 million off the top for this family. So it's awful.
What's to stop another in this case? What's to stop another insurrectionist from that day from filing a civil suit thing? Like what is the government conceding that the government wronged Ashli Babbitt and her family? Then what about all the other people then? Mm-hmm. I mean, like, so where does this stop if somebody else files a law? I mean, you see they're trying everything they can. People, we've talked about it on this show extensively, the people using the pardon that they got and see if it could cover other stuff. So what's not to say somebody who got pepper sprayed by an officer that day from suing the government?
Yeah. I imagine we'll see a slew of new lawsuits based on this.
Based on this
right
reward.
Here. People seeking money, seeking our taxpayer dollars. All right. Before we get into Judge Hannah Dugan, I just wanted to take a second and talk about Joe Biden. He was diagnosed with a very aggressive form of prostate cancer that has metastasized to the bone. And so I just wanted to, I know you've spoken to him on the phone pretty recently, but probably not since this diagnosis came out. But the right wing they're being jerks about this, as we could have probably easily predicted. But he was a good man and he was a good president. Sure, maybe he made a couple of mistakes, but this is horrible. And I just wanted to touch on this and say that all of us here at MSW Media are sending our love and support to the Biden family. They've been through so much tragedy.
They've been through so much. And that's the first thing that came to mind. Like, yeah, we all expect, the right-wing MAGA folks to have their thing. But outside of any politics or the work that Joe Biden has done as a great president, and he's just been through so much. And my God, that's a lot for one individual to bear. I mean, outside of all the presidential stress and duties that come with, being an elected official, let alone the president, he's just been through so much. And I received the news and it's heartbreaking. And I'm just wishing him the best. I mean, if anybody couldn't pull through and fight through, it's got to be somebody like him. And I'm just sending all the well wishes, and he's going to get the best care. But let's just hope that and hope for the best as far as containing and eradicating this cancer, and F cancer, by the way.
Yeah, if you do get to talk to him, send him our love.
Absolutely will.
All right, let's talk. Let's shift gears and talk about Judge Hannah Dugan. She's the Milwaukee judge that let that guy leave through the side door, which, by the way, incidentally, is just a few feet away from the main door. It's not like it was like way down the hall or in a different hall or somewhere hidden.
It's right there.
She let him go out through the jury room, through that other exit, where in the hallway he encountered ICE agents who joined him in the elevator. So I don't quite understand what this is about, but the Trump administration arrested her to make a public show of their disdain for the judicial branch. This is a bunch of propaganda. They initially arrested her on a criminal complaint only, but CBS is reporting that a federal grand jury a week ago Tuesday indicted Wisconsin judge Hannah Dugan, who's accused of helping a man evade immigration authorities, which allows the case against her to continue. The arrest of Milwaukee County Circuit Judge Hannah Dugan escalated a clash between Trump's administration and local authorities over the Republican sweeping immigration crackdown. Democrats have accused the Trump administration of trying to make a national example of Dugan to chill judicial opposition to the crackdown, me included. Prosecutors charged Dugan in April via complaint. In the federal criminal justice system, prosecutors can initiate charges against a defendant directly by filing a complaint or by presenting evidence to a grand jury and letting that body decide whether to issue charges. And they went ahead and did that.
Yeah. And a grand jury still reviews charges brought by complaint to determine whether enough probable cause exists to continue the case as a check on prosecutors' power. We would never see anything like that, will we? Prosecutors would never do that, especially in this administration. However, if the grand jury determines there's probable cause, it issues a written statement of charges known as an indictment. And that's what happened in Dugan's case. She has pled not guilty at her arraignment last week after hiring Paul Clement and Stephen Biskupik to represent her. Clement served as the U.S. Solicitor General from 2005 to 2009 and has argued more than 100 cases before the Supreme Court. He was on Trump's short list of Supreme Court picks and was also named an amicus curiae to the Eric Adams case. Stephen Biskupik is a former U.S. attorney and a George W. Bush appointee.
Interesting. So after she pled not guilty, her team of lawyers filed a motion to dismiss, and we were kind of expecting this. And the thing is that they're using Trump's own case on immunity against him. And we're going to go over that motion, but we have to take a quick break. So everybody stick around. We'll be right back.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. All right, let's get into the motion to dismiss filed in the Hannah Dugan case, the Milwaukee judge. In her motion to dismiss the case, Dugan argued that the charges against her are virtually unprecedented and entirely unconstitutional. Dugan on Wednesday filed her motion to dismiss the indictment that charged her with concealing a person from arrest and obstruction after she allegedly misdirected federal agents away from a person in her court who is in the U.S. illegally, according to court records. The judge argued she is entitled to judicial immunity.
Oh, immunity, you say?
Yeah, we heard that before.
And here's how the motion opens. It says, Honorable Hannah C. Dugan moves for an order dismissing the indictment. This is no ordinary criminal case, and Dugan is no ordinary criminal defendant. Dugan is a Milwaukee County Circuit Court judge. She was arrested and indicted for actions allegedly taken in and in the immediate vicinity of her courtroom, involving a person appearing before her as a party. The government's prosecution of Judge Dugan is virtually unprecedented and entirely unconstitutional, as you said, Harry. It violates the 10th Amendment and fundamental principles of federalism and comity reflected in that amendment, and is the very structure of the United States Constitution. And then right there on the first page, they draw some blood. They say, the problems with this prosecution are legion. But most immediately, the government cannot prosecute Judge Dugan because she is entitled to judicial immunity for her official acts. Immunity is not a defense to the prosecution to be determined later by a jury or a court. It is an absolute bar to the prosecution at the outset. See Trump versus the United States, 2024.
Wow. Wow. Threw it right back at him. Here's their argument for judicial immunity. First, judges are empowered to maintain control over their courtroom, specifically in the courthouse generally. Stevens v. Osana. The issuance of an order removing persons from the courthouse in interest of maintaining such control is an ordinary function performed by judges. Second, her motives are irrelevant. Judge Dugan's subjective motivations are irrelevant to immunity. Judges are entitled to absolute immunity for their judicial acts without regard to the motive with which those acts are allegedly performed. Trump v. United States. There's one more mention of Trump. There's another one.
Yeah, because Trump argued judges are entitled to absolute immunity, so I should be. Oh, really? Is that what you say? Okay.
That's what he said.
Yeah. And then there's the 10th Amendment argument, and it goes like this. Immunities aside, the indictment runs afoul of the 10th Amendment and constitutional principles of federalism. Federal power is limited to specific enumerated areas in the Constitution. All other powers, quote, are reserved to the states, respectively, or to the people. Okay, that's from the 10th Amendment. That includes the general police power. The states retain it. The federal government does not have it. Unsurprisingly, then, the American judicial system, empirically, is most entirely the realm of the states. In other words, she's a state judge, and the feds, you have no power here. It goes on to say, the government's prosecution here reaches directly into a state courthouse, disrupting active proceedings and interferes with the official duties of an elected judge. Judge Dugan was elected by the people of Milwaukee County to adjudicate their disputes and administer the laws of Wisconsin. The federal government violated Wisconsin's sovereignty on April 18th when it disrupted Judge Dugan's courtroom. And it's violating Wisconsin's sovereignty now with this prosecution. The court should end the violation of Wisconsin's sovereignty and dismiss the indictment. So we'll see how the judge in this case rules on this particular motion to dismiss. Harry, who is the judge in this case?
Well, it's funny you should ask. This case has been assigned to U.S. District Judge Lin Edelman of the Eastern District of Wisconsin, a Bill Clinton appointee, according to the Washington Post. Edelman, a former Democratic state senator, drew attention in 2020 when he wrote a law review article accusing the Supreme Court of undermining American democracy.
Oh, it's that Judge Edelman.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Indeed. So these are fascinating arguments. I specifically like how they keep quoting Trump back at himself, or at least the administration back, quoting Trump back at the administration with all of his immunity arguments going way back to 2023, actually, when he asked for immunity in the January 6th case brought by Jack Smith. Because immunity, as we know, is an interlocutory thing. You can't go forward with a prosecution until you decide immunity. And so this is a very short motion to dismiss. It goes over immunity, federalism, Wisconsin sovereignty, pretty directly and pretty quickly, and says this is all BS. You have to dismiss this indictment on immunity grounds alone. And even if you don't dismiss it on immunity, the feds don't have any power in a state court. And she, as part of her official acts, is in control of her courtroom. And if she doesn't want a big kerfuffle right outside the main doors of her courtroom, and instead wants to kerfuffle down the hall, that's her prerogative. And even if her intention was to somehow hide this guy from ICE, which it clearly can't have been, and they will have a really hard time proving, her intention doesn't matter. And Trump argued that in his very own immunity case back at the Supreme Court. So it'll be interesting to see. And what's extra funny is that Trump's lawyers, his personal lawyers in that immunity case, are now Department of Justice employees. Right?
They are. Yeah, they absolutely are. That is an interesting takeaway. One of the things that I found the most interesting is kind of around the last sentence where it says the court should end the violation of Wisconsin's sovereignty and dismiss the indictment. It also sounds like they're accusing the government of breaking the law, almost, breaking sovereignty, of violating the Constitution. So could, this turn around and be a countersuit where they're suing the federal government? It sounds like they're attempting to make that argument, but I'm excited. Well, not excited. I'll be watching impatiently to see where this heads.
Yeah, no, me too. And I mean, it's interesting to talk about judicial immunity and the fact that Trump's quoting judicial immunity to get presidential immunity, because before presidential immunity existed, judicial immunity existed, right? Like that's already on the books. Yeah, I don't think presidential immunity should exist. I mean, sure, for his core executive powers, but those have already always existed, right? That's why nobody could indict past presidents for drone attacks or whatever. It already existed. And there was no need for the Supreme Court to step in and make a rule for the ages and outlaw evidence that might have to do with official acts, or to give a president presumptive immunity and force the government or a prosecutor to meet a very high bar to overcome presumptive immunity for official acts. None of that was necessary. It hadn't been necessary for 250 years. It only became necessary when we had a criminal president.
Absolutely.
And so it'll be fascinating, because you and I are going to cover this case to defend that kind of immunity for judges. And I just want to make clear that we've always defended immunity for any officers' official duties or core constitutional duties. That's never been a question. So when you hear us defending judicial immunity, I just kind of wanted everybody to be aware that this already existed. It was already a thing. And we don't need the Supreme Court to come in and add on to it and give any judges absolute immunity for being totally above the law. But for her to be in control of her courtroom, that's obviously part of her official duties. And the fact, like we were saying, she's a state judge. And the states are in charge of that. If the state wants to bring an indictment against her, then
that's where
talk,
it lies. Yeah.
Right?
That's where it lies. Yeah, I'm curious to see how this plays out. Like I said, we're going to be covering it for you all and bringing you all the nuts and bolts and the juicy details. And Allison is going to be explaining them to us as only she can. So
a lot of F-bombs and
yes,
WTFs.
Absolutely. Because it's already shaping up for that type of case. Like, really, dude?
Yeah, I feel this is going to go the way of Durham. Remember John Durham, Special Counsel John Durham investigating the Russia investigation? I think we'll kind of see the same outcome. But that actually went to trial and they lost. So we'll see. We'll see what the judge decides. But even if it does get past this motion to dismiss, to prove her intent in a court of law is going to be pretty much virtually impossible.
Very much
especially with Judge Adelman, right? Come on. All right. We have more to talk about, including, Harry, this horrible story about ICE, which Tim Walz has dubbed Trump's Gestapo, using children as bait.
Yeah, this is a horrible story.
To get to people.
Yeah.
And we're going to tell you how they did it and what the outcome was. But we do have to take a quick break, so everybody stick around. We'll be right back. Hey, everybody, welcome back. We have some Hall of Fame patrons to thank, who I'm sure we're going to see on this Friday's super duper mega happy hour cocktail mocktail extravaganza. Thank you to Christine Tackner, Deborah Kirby, Kimberly D. Stephen, Jeffrey Kincher, Clover's Tree 73, January 20 baby. That's also my birthday. What? Star Linus, Fran Reichenbach, Joan Qualls. It's crabs and Old Bay season in Baltimore, Maryland. And Mr. Stu Pedasso. Thank you so much.
It really is, though. I would let you get to that last name, but crabs and Old Bay here in Maryland, my gosh, it doesn't get any better than that. Come on up, AG. Let me treat you to some.
Oh, absolutely. I love it. I absolutely love it. Thank you to our Hall of Fame patrons. Again, we couldn't do this without you. Hall of Famers are like $10 or more. And we, again, just totally supporting everything that we do here, allowing us to have the great team behind us that we have, and all of our vendors allowing us to pay super high wages, 401k matches, health cover, health benefits, and all that. We couldn't do it without your help. So we really, really appreciate you. Again, if you want to become a patron and join our super duper happy hour with Andy McCabe and me and Harry Dunn and Dana Goldberg this Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific, you can do that by going to patreon.com/aisle45pod. All right. Our next story comes from Rolling Stone. And if you can swing it, I highly recommend subscribing to Rolling Stone. They're doing some outstanding journalism. And this comes from Sub Sang. They write that when U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, arrested Roseanne Ferreira de Oliveira last week in Worcester, Massachusetts, the situation rapidly devolved into chaos and community outrage. Multiple recordings of the incident went viral, but what bystanders did not capture on video was how the federal agents were able to draw Ferreira de Oliveira out in public where they could arrest her in the first place. ICE used Ferreira de Oliveira's loved ones to lure her out of her home when agents couldn't go in and arrest her. And they lured her out onto Eureka Street, according to 3 people with direct knowledge of the matter, and another source familiar with the situation who spoke to Rolling Stone.
My goodness, like I said earlier, the floor can't get any lower than these individuals. 2 of the sources independently say that ICE used the undocumented Brazilian woman's daughter and grandchildren as bait in an operation that the Trump administration is now touting as another victory in its sprawling, often lawless crackdown on both legal and illegal immigration. Last Thursday, 21-year-old Augusta Clara and her 3-month-old baby and Clara's 17-year-old sister had just begun driving away from their home when they were stopped by ICE agents. The three of them and Ferreira de Oliveira, who entered the United States in 2022, are part of a Brazilian immigrant family who live together in the greater Boston area.
Yeah, and apparently they don't all share the same immigration status in that home. But Ferreira de Oliveira, who's 40, was still at the nearby home when she received a phone call from one of the daughters who said ICE had pulled them over and they were threatening to arrest Clara. Ferreira de Oliveira's frightened daughter told her mother that she needed to leave her home and come meet them on the street because ICE was telling them that if they arrested Clara, they weren't allowed to leave the baby in the hands of a minor. So the feds insisted Grandma had to rush over to take custody of the baby. That was what ICE told this 17-year-old to tell her mother, that if you don't get your mother out here to take custody of your baby, she'll be left on the street when we take you away.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and shortly after Ferreira de Oliveira arrived on the scene, ICE arrested her, took her into custody.
Of course.
And the agents suddenly no longer seemed interested in the 21-year-old daughter or her 17-year-old sister. Neither of them were arrested.
Yeah, ridiculous. The feds never produced a warrant for Clara, which they claimed they had, and it's unclear if one even ever existed. They are traumatized for life, says one of the sources with direct knowledge of the situation. We have an undocumented family who came to this country for reasons that are not public, who all live together, and now they are torn apart in a very violent and sensational manner, which is now on video for them to see for the rest of their lives, this person added. When I was with the 17-year-old, she kept watching the videos, and I kept wanting to tell her, don't watch the videos. They're only going to re-traumatize you. The whole family is still in shock, and these girls' lives are shattered.
My God. Now, in a draft for a potential public fundraising message, Clara appears to confirm certain details of this. Quote, everything started the day before when they arrested my partner, the father of my 3-month-old son, while he was driving to work. That's what Clara's draft said, sent by her attorney, Andrew Lattarulo. And that's what he told Rolling Stone. Rolling Stone has not yet independently verified some of these claims, but the draft continues, quote, he committed no crimes or offenses against anybody. His only mistake was honking at a car that cut him off. And the car ended up being an undercover ICE vehicle, and they decided to arrest him over this. Later that morning, ICE agents showed up and knocked on my door to return my partner's car and to tell me to show up the next day to sign some documents at an immigration building. I left my home the next morning to do so and took my 17-year-old sister along. And that's when ICE stopped my car and said I was under arrest. But since I was with my baby, someone else needed to be there to take him. So I called my mother to come and take my son for me. And then the immigration agents wanted to arrest her. By now, the neighborhood started to take notice of the situation and were filming with their phones. I'm currently staying with friends as I'm too afraid to return to my home. I'm unable to retrieve any of mine and my baby's things, and I'm unable to work because of my current predicament. So they pulled over her husband and then told her she needed to come to an immigration office to sign some paperwork at a certain time. And at that time, they were ready for her, pulled her over, told her they would arrest her, and said her mom needed to come out and get her baby. And when they did, they arrested her mom too.
That's wild. It's truly baiting somebody. And justifying Ferreira de Oliveira's arrest, the Trump administration has attempted to portray the detained grandmother as a violent, criminal, illegal alien, with the Department of Homeland Security noting in a statement provided to the Rolling Stone that she was previously arrested by local police for assault and battery with a dangerous weapon on a pregnant victim. However, according to NBC's Boston affiliate, her daughter, Augusta Clara, said it was merely a domestic dispute with her 17-year-old sister. Public records show that the alleged dangerous weapon was a phone charger cable. Sources with direct knowledge of the matter tell Rolling Stone that her daughters and her family want the mother brought back home.
Yeah. So ICE wasn't the only law enforcement on the scene. The Worcester Police Department responded to the arrest last Thursday, citing a group of about 24 people trying to prevent ICE from conducting the arrest. Quote, the crowd was unruly and several people were putting their hands on federal agents and Worcester officers in an attempt to keep the vehicle and the arrestee from leaving. That's what the police said. Worcester officers attempted to de-escalate the situation and keep everyone safe. Now, video obtained by Telemundo shows multiple Worcester police officers pushing a woman and slamming Ferreira de Oliveira's teenage daughter into the ground. Worcester police arrested the teenage girl, alleging that she had a newborn baby in her arms before passing it off to someone else, and then appeared as if she was going to run in front of a moving vehicle. Worcester police also arrested a 38-year-old school board candidate named Ashli Springs, alleging she pushed multiple officers and threw an unknown liquid substance on them. Massachusetts state law, by the way, prohibits local law enforcement from assisting ICE, which they did in this case.
Sounds like it. Andrew Latarolo, the lawyer representing Clara, tells Rolling Stone that the Massachusetts Attorney General's office told him on Monday that it is looking into what happened, including regarding the conduct of local police. The lawyer adds that the state's Attorney General's office indicated to him that they want to look into that as well, and they plan to discuss that matter with at a later date with him. Now, listen, like you can't put your hands on, law enforcement while they're attempting to do their job. I've always stated, make a good witness, not a good defendant. But in this case, as it's reading, the police department had, one, no business being there, and two, that they were aggressive in this manner. Waiting to see what comes from it, though.
Yeah, for real. Now, the Worcester community has been protesting this incident since last Thursday, including through a hands-off Worcester Mothers demonstration on Sunday. The group, Worcester Indivisible, planned another protest at City Hall on Tuesday, which appears to have caused City Hall to close its doors and hold city business virtually. City spokesperson Tom Matthews said the closure came over public safety concerns and out of an abundance of caution. The Boston Globe reported that multiple city council members received bomb threats in the wake of the incident. Meanwhile, Ferreira de Oliveira's family and their allies and friends are still searching for answers about what happened that day. Her daughters, sources say, have been repeatedly asking, "Where is my mom?"
Man, that's so sad.
Yeah, frightening. And by the way, after Tim Walz compared ICE to the Gestapo, the Department of Homeland Security tweeted that the comparison is inappropriate, claiming assaults on ICE officers have increased 413%. Well, that's because the number is really low. And an Inspector General report from 2018 showed that there were a grand total of 7 convictions for assaults on ICE officers over a 4-year period. 7 convictions in 4 years. So yeah, I guess if that goes up to 21 over the next 4 years, sure, that's the 413% increase or whatever the math is. I'm not doing the top of my head. I'm not as much of a mathlete as I used to be.
Well, it's about like 28 or 29, but I'm not bragging on my math skills right there.
Right. But like over 4 years, right? Yeah. So, and coming from this administration to talk and complain about assaults on ICE officers after getting behind pardoning like 1,000 people for what they did on January 6th, 140 injured officers, hundreds of assaults against police. I can't. I just can't.
Look at it this way. I mean, maybe those people that assaulted these ICE agents are due for pardons. It seems like you assault law enforcement, you might get a pardon. Listen, one officer's assaulted is too many. Yeah. I'm not calling for any violence against anybody, let alone our peacemakers, and I'm using that in air quotes, because the job is supposed to be peace and serving the communities, not terrorizing them.
Families, yeah.
So yeah, that's the part. But keep your hands to yourself, and ICE, do your job the right way and stop terrorizing families.
Yeah, using those kids as bait is just, and then using the husband as bait to get the mom to leave her house. And then using the mom as bait to get her mom to leave her house. Just despicable. Bad policing.
Just Christian values, I'm sure.
Oh, right. Yeah, exactly. But speaking of January 6th, another pardoned insurrectionist has been arrested. Mm-hmm. And we'll tell you what
This is nuts right here.
We'll tell you what for. And it ain't small. We'll tell you what for after this quick break. Stick around. We'll be right back.
All right, y'all. Welcome back. All right. Like we just talked about, this story is kind of crazy right here, AG. Zachary Allum, a Northern Virginia man sentenced to 8 years in prison for assaulting police during the Capitol riot and then pardoned by Trump, has been arrested again. From WUSA 9 in Virginia, a Northern Virginia man who was pardoned by President Donald Trump in his role in January 6, 2021, the Capitol attack, has been arrested in connection with a home invasion. A home invasion. Less than 4 months after his release. That's insane.
The recidivism rate is high with these really mofos. Now, according to authorities, Allum, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, entered the residence on Arthurwood Place through a back door around 8:30 p.m. The homeowners confronted him. They were home, and he fled the scene before being apprehended in a nearby neighborhood. Allum was previously serving, like you said, an 8-year prison sentence for assaulting police officers and smashing the speaker's lobby window that Ashli Babbitt attempted to climb through before she was fatally shot by law enforcement, rightly, during the Capitol riot. In a jailhouse interview with WUSA 9 before his pardon, Allum was unapologetic about his actions on January 6th. Quote, "Not only are we expecting a pardon, we're demanding a pardon." That's what he told WUSA 9 from the Grayson County, Kentucky Detention Center. When asked what he would do upon his release, Allum responded, "That's just for me to know and you to find out." Well, yeah. So
well, we found out, my friend.
B&E and larceny, and you're about to find out, sir.
Yeah. FAFO is real. Allum is the latest person pardoned after serving time for January 6 crimes to run into trouble with the law again. In January, an Indiana man who served a short jail sentence for entering the Capitol during the riot was shot to death by a sheriff's deputy in Northwest Indiana after a scuffle during a traffic stop with the Jasper County Sheriff's Department. In February, a Texas man who was sentenced to 6 years in prison for attacking police with bear spray on January 6th, also a pardon recipient, was rearrested on a warrant for solicitation of a minor.
Yeah. Fine people on both sides.
Sounds like it.
Allum is now charged with residential breaking and entering, little B&E action, and vandalism. He's being held at Henrico County Regional Jail West, and I love this for him. If you'd like to go visit him, again, he's at Henrico County Regional Jail West. Next up, from CNN, a voting technology firm suing Fox News for defamation over its 2020 election coverage claimed senior corporate executives all the way up to Rupert Murdoch intentionally destroyed damning evidence in the case, according to the court filings. Smartmatic levied the stunning new allegations on Wednesday, alleging in court filings that Fox orchestrated the destruction of text messages across all levels of their corporate hierarchy, despite a clear duty to preserve evidence. What? You hadn't heard of Signal Chat like Pete Hegseth?
They might have added Smartmatic to the chat.
Yeah. You just add a little journalism. Frick. In the highly redacted filing, Smartmatic claimed Murdoch and his son, Lachlan, were among Fox officials who deleted their text messages in an extensive and willful fashion, and not by accident. Right? Well, I just accidentally deleted all my text messages like the Secret Service on January 6th.
Oh, yeah.
It was just a software update. Rupert Murdoch was chairman of Fox Corporation during the 2020 election, and his son was the CEO. The elder Murdoch stepped down in 2023, and his son became Fox Corp chairman. Smartmatic claimed the deleted texts were from November and December 2020, when numerous Fox hosts promoted the debunked lie that Smartmatic machines rigged that year's presidential election against Trump. Quote, "Fox has eliminated contemporaneous texts that would have revealed further evidence of what Fox executives knew about the falsity of their broadcasts." That's what Smartmatic lawyers wrote in the filing. They went on to say, while it championed election fraud on air, behind the scenes, Fox ensured that many of its executives' incriminating communications would never see daylight. The long-running lawsuit doesn't even yet have a trial date in New York State. Smartmatic asked a judge overseeing the case to tell the eventual jury that Fox destroyed evidence and that they can assume the evidence would have hurt Fox's defense.
Wow, look at that. We're giving future juries intention. I mean, listen, it sounds like Fox messed up here, but they'll have their day in court, due to due process, which we, seem trying to get rid of in this day and age. But let's look about this. And when there's no Rudy news and no Pillow Man news, we'll talk about their loser friends. Now, this story comes from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. A Fulton County jury returned an $11.4 million verdict Thursday, $11.4 million against prominent former attorney Lin Wood, finding him liable for contract breach and fraud in his years-long battle with former colleagues over the division of client fees. Wood, a one-time political candidate and an outspoken ally of Donald Trump, made a career representing high-profile clients in defamation cases, including the parents of slain child beauty pageant Queen JonBenet Ramsey and Centennial Olympic Park hero Richard Jewell.
Interesting. The jurors in this case found Wood breached a March 2020 agreement with former colleagues Nicole Wade, Taylor Wilson, and Jonathan Grunberg by failing to pay them just over $1 million in client fees and by publicly disparaging them. The jurors, who deliberated for just 2 hours, also held Wood liable for fraud in retaliation to his contractual promises. Just over $5.1 million in damages was awarded to compensate Wade, Wilson, and Grunberg. The jurors also determined Wood must pay $5 million in additional damages designed to punish and deter his behavior, as well as almost $1.3 million for the plaintiff's attorney's fees and litigation costs.
Wow. Not surprising, though. Wood already owes more than $4.6 million to Wade, Wilson, and Grunberg from previous judgments in their 5-year legal battle. So these fees just keep on coming and coming. $4.6 million stemming from the trio's departure from Wood's law firm in early 2020. The verdict ends a 9-day trial in which Wood accused Fulton County Superior Court Judge Scott McAfee of being a biased Freemason. And McAfee said Wood was essentially unmanageable. Those comments came out outside of the presence of the jury Wednesday morning as Wood sought a mistrial, which McAfee denied. Wood said McAfee had gutted his defense days before trial and unfairly admonished him in front of the jurors. He said he was being subjected to a Freemason tribunal, as well as attempts to make him seem racist in front of the predominantly black jurors.
Seem racist?
Well, they didn't have to portray you that way, dude.
Don't be racist, won't seem racist.
I like that. There you go.
Wood's ownership of the multi-billion-dollar former Tomotley plantation, which spans more than 1,000 acres in South Carolina, was mentioned multiple times during the trial by the plaintiff's attorneys, as well as Lin Wood. So, okay. Wood, who gave up his law license to end a misconduct investigation into himself, represented himself at trial. Only a fool has himself as a client. But he did have assistant from Atlanta attorney John Exum, a lawyer of 2 years. Wood testified Tuesday he always intended to honor the 2020 agreement with Wade, Wilson, and Grunberg, who he loved. He said he wanted them to succeed, though they demanded more than they had earned and insulted and mistreated him. Quote, "They turned on me like a snake," he said. "I feel sorry for them, and every night, by name, I pray for them." Okay, well, I pray for your $11.4 million to go to them. So.
Well, isn't it like it continues? Like he already owes more than $4.6 million. So it's just keep them coming. Like, pay these people their money.
You made me look like a racist, even though I talked about my wonderful, amazing South Carolina plantation all the time. Remember, that's the plantation where they brought people to train them for 2020?
And he's proud of it. Excuse me. He's proud of his heritage, I'm sure.
Right.
Like most Confederate supporters are.
Yeah, but like Sidney Powell, Rudy, Lin Wood, they all met at that the Kraken Strike Force all met at that plantation to devise the Green Bay sweep, to try to overturn the results of the election. He's a fucking seditionist and he's a racist. So,
couldn't happen to a better person.
Right. Don't commit a crime in Fulton County if you don't want black people on
the jury. Exactly, right? Like, what are you doing?
I feel super bad for him. Not at all.
I was about to say, where are you going with this, AG? I do not feel sorry for that loser.
No. So $148 million for Rudy. I think we're in $16 million here for Lin Wood. So yeah, that's where the justice comes, right? We didn't get to see a lot of indictments, but we did get to see some disbarments, and we get to see a lot of these civil suits, and that's where I look for the justice. So anyway, bummer. So if you want to go visit again that January 6th guy in prison
in Rico, Virginia, there you go.
Or just write a little, thinking of you sympathy card to Lin Wood. If you feel really super bad for these guys, go right ahead. But there is some justice still out there, even in this administration. So we continue to bring that to you as much as we can.
Those little victories that we can.
We have to microdose that hope. So anyway, thank you so much. You got to hop on a train to go see Abby Phillips. If there's a Scott Jennings there, tell him I said. And
I might just say, fuck you, dude. Oh, wait, this is the public episode. Oops, sorry.
Oops. Oh, we got an F-bomb in the public episode.
Get all the F-bombs on our patron bonus episode by becoming a patron.
Later this week.
You can hear all those F-bombs.
Yeah, and if you want to join our Zoom call, sign up for Patreon. You'll be supporting independent media. It's awesome anyway. You get the episodes ad-free. You get them early, get that bonus episode. You get to come to our Zoom happy hour that had me, Harry Dunn, Dana Goldberg, Andy McCabe. It's going to be a blast. We'll see you Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific. Again, patreon.com/aisle45pod. We appreciate you all so very much. Again, we couldn't do it without you. Do you have any final thoughts before we get out of here today?
No, I was in Florida this past weekend, and I did a town hall with the former Congresswoman Val Demings.
That's right. How'd that go? Was it amazing?
It was so good. It was close to 200 people, probably at 250 people at every venue, and it was just great. People are still encouraged. Well, I don't know about the encouraged part. I'll take that back. People are motivated to do something. And that's what we need. And we need to keep that energy all the way up through 2026. And then after that, I went down to the villages. And it was so funny. I got to see all the golf carts just driving around. I mean, it's not even a community. It's a town. The town is the villages. Yeah. And there are golf carts everywhere. And it's so funny when I spoke to the crowd, one of the first things I said to you, I quoted the Wizard of Oz. And I said, I saw these golf carts, and I had to go up to him. I said, are you a good golf cart or a bad golf cart? But no, I mean, there was a lot of people there in the villages. They're fired up. They're still angry. They're motivated. So that's what we're going to keep on doing. Keep our energy focused towards 2026 and beyond.
Yep, that's what we got to do. 3 to win in 2026. And that is our step. And hey, Romania, they just beat the Trump guy.
Yes, I saw that. That is great.
So every single country in the world is learning from the United States mistake. So yeah, I'm very happy to see that. Thank you. And I hope we can do the same. We can repeat that in 2026. All right, everybody. We'll be back in your ear soon. Please take care. Have a great rest of your week. I've been Allison Gill.
Harry Dunn. Thanks, y'all.
Cleanup on Aisle 45 is written, researched, and produced by Allison Gill, with editing by Molly Hockey. Our art and logo design are by Joelle Reeder and Moxie Design Studios, and our music is composed and performed by Adam Orr. Cleanup on Aisle 45 is a proud member of the MSW Media Network, a collection of creator-owned podcasts dedicated to news, politics, and justice. For more information, visit mswmedia.com. MSW Media.